This podcast episode may contain explicit material. Listener viewer discretion is advised. The intention is not to offend, but to provide information. Proceed only if you are comfortable with potentially sensitive content.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with Sheriff Jason Ard. I'm Jason Ard. We started this podcast to educate everyone on the role of the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. We're about serving and protecting our community. On this podcast, we will tackle lots of topics. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the studio. We have two very important gentlemen in front of me. I'm thanking them for being here. And we just kind of finished up with Crime Stoppers with Don and Johnny. And they introduced this program as we talked about it, Beyond Bars. And these two gentlemen sitting in front of me, Desmond Kennedy.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Des.
How you doing today? Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you for being here. And Rashan Williams.
Yes, Rashan Williams.
Appreciate
you for having me.
I appreciate y'all being here. I really do. And so this program basically is bringing y'all out beyond the bars.
Yes, sir.
And y'all are sharing some testimonies with some the youth throughout our communities. And I know y'all have, I know, Des, you've actually been over here
yes.
in Livingston Parish and gave you testimony. I know last year I heard you. It was very, very
yes,
inspiring. Dijon, I don't know if you spoke over here in Livingston yet?
Yes, I spoke at Livingston Alternative. I think we've been there a total of 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I've never been here.
Yeah, I may actually left before you spoke. I'm good at that exiting because I had something else to do.
Right.
But so I want to kind of get into this. And first off, it's very, again, for me, I appreciate you guys stepping up because you have so many people that find themselves in your shoes that may not want to step up. They don't want to contribute to society. They want to point the finger. They want to, do those kind of things. Yeah. But you guys have decided, you know what, I can give back. I can make a change. I can make a difference in that one person's life, and I just commend you guys for that, and I appreciate it. So with that, Des, I'm gonna start with you. If you want to, give us your background
okay.
and how you basically found yourself to be where you're at today, and just fill us in.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank God for the opportunity, to be able to come before y'all. You know what I'm saying, and give my testimony, and also to try to lead these kids right. First, for me, I come up pretty hard. In a single parent household, mother on drugs, father murdered. Actually, the typical hood lifestyle. So, I saw a lot. I experienced a lot that your typical teenager or your child ain't supposed to see, until my grandma took us in. Coming up in school, I was smart in school. But still, I was still traumatized by the things I experienced, and I fought a lot. I used anger, turned it into a spectacle. And from there, I got caught with a gun in the 3rd grade. I want to share something funny. So, like, the kids today think today's times, like, everything that's going on is new. It's not new. So if they have somebody, actually trying to tell them something right, pay attention and listen. They trying to prevent you from getting in trouble, because here it is, in today's times, a lot of kids actually getting caught with guns in school. But I turned 39 in September, and I got caught with a gun in the 3rd grade back then. So, and I'm not saying that to glorify, but, if somebody trying to tell them something, just please listen. I kept getting put out of school, kept getting in trouble, kept fighting. So I actually opened up a school kind of like Pine Ridge and Livingston Alternative, but ours was called the satellite school. So I actually opened up that school.
Okay.
Yes. So just kept getting in trouble, and I got in trouble there, and eventually that led to going to juvenile. So I was back and forth, in and out of juvenile, and typical teenagers don't change, don't listen, keep becoming rebellious, and prison is actually the next option.
Right.
So I come to prison, first incarceration, then I come back again. After I made all of those choices and decisions, it's like, for this one here, it really struck. So I just told my kids that I wouldn't go put them back into this circumstance situation again. But here it is. Pride, foolishness actually led back to me being incarcerated, and it took me away from them for 20 years. 20 years. So all of my kids had to experience me being away from them again. And I dealt with the same thing as a child, so it was a reoccurring generational thing.
Right.
So here it is. How am I going to stop the generational curse? Actually, by giving back.
Right.
So I started going through the process of getting myself together. I started this with juvenile awareness first in the system. Actually going through the system is this program called Juvenile Awareness, to where you get to talk to kids on the tour or whatever, and I saw my passion with it. But the passion turned into purpose. Actually being able to do it here and to talk to the kids here, it gave me more of an opening. And it was less filtered. So I was able to give them the actual reality of everything that goes on, you know, and everything that I've been through.
Right.
And come to find out, a lot of those kids actually going through the same thing that I've been through. So it was a real connection. And for me, it showed me that it put that mirror up in front of my face, because, you know, as a teenager, as you're going through life experiences, the traumas and stuff, you don't know exactly what it looked like. But actually talking to these kids, it showed me that mirror of what I looked like. So I was able to face a lot of my traumas through them. I came up in the same household, the same trouble, you know, getting into trouble, getting incarcerated, and actually being away from my kids. And it actually hurted me being put into that position, because things that happened to my kids or the things that they experienced, I couldn't protect them from.
Yeah. You know, and then one of the things that I remember when I heard you speak is that telling and looking at them and saying, you don't want to be where I'm at.
Exactly.
And whenever it gets to a certain point in time, what else are you going to do? If you keep messing up, you keep getting arrested, eventually you're going to find yourself hooked up, locked up, and that's where you at. And right. I remember when you said it, I looked around the room, and it resonated with a lot of people in that room that, hey, you know what?
Yes.
Maybe it's not as, you know, because they think about it, but I don't think they really understand it, you know, what prison life really is.
Kids need to understand that it starts from truancy. Something as simple is not wanting to go to school. Something simple is just being rebellious and not listening to your parents. But it could end up turning into something that could either take your life or land you in prison for the rest of your life. Crime don't get smaller as you grow up and get older. You know, it's get actually harder. You grow this type of mentality to, well, I could keep doing stuff and getting away with it and keep getting away with it until you find yourself with a 40-year sentence. Or, you know what I'm saying, life, or either getting killed in the act of violence. So a lot of kids need to understand that. Yeah.
So Des, what I know they're going to ask, what would you actually did time for? What are you doing time for now?
Well, now I'm serving time for home invasion. Actually, a home invasion with the penalty of a firearm. So in my circumstance, it was a drug deal gone bad, and pride once again. So I go school drugs, and right. So I'm gonna say this before, right? First of all, I ain't had no business even being back in that circumstance, because I just got out of prison prior.
But that's but you kind of accepted that for your life at the time, right?
Exactly.
And so you kind of like in the trenches, and you know, when do you get out of it? And sometimes it's the only thing you know is to go back to where you left. I mean,
exactly. But I want to say this: I came home and I didn't have a plan. See, that's what actually put me back into the streets, because I didn't have a plan. And so I always wanted the microwave way of getting things fast. Right. So I went back to committing crimes.
Right.
So actually committing crimes actually led me to this home invasion. So I'm going to school some drugs from somebody, and it turned out bad. actually the police was watching his house already to bust him. So as soon as we leave, shoot, bro, we got an high-speed chase, and that led to a crash. So it's all type of ways that I could have lost my life in that situation, and here it is. We don't think about that until it happens or something happens.
Right.
Or, other people could have been home. Just thank God, ain't nobody actually got killed or lost their life in that circumstance.
Right.
So,
sometimes you got to slow your life down, like
Yes.
get locked up. I hate to say it, but it's the truth.
Yes.
To slow your life, slow your mind down, to refocus and say, okay, what am I going to do now?
To be honest, this was the best thing that could have happened to me, because if I would have stayed out there any longer, I could have got killed.
You may not be here today.
I wouldn't be here today to be able to share my testimony.
So, Des, what's your plan?
So actually, I'm a barber. So I'm going back to barber school and get my master license. So all of the kids that I encounter, I'll be able to teach them. Teach them and give them a trade and pull them out of the streets and continue with Crime Stoppers, talking to these kids, going to the schools and actually getting into the communities to make this work.
Right.
It's all about crime prevention. Actually being proactive and making a conscious decision on showing them that, hey, this not the way to go.
Right.
I've been there, and I'm a living testimony of what it could do and the places that committing crime could bring you if
Right.
you don't listen. So, I'm dedicated to doing this.
Well, I greatly, again, appreciate it, because, again, you're able to talk directly to certain kids,
Yes, sir.
certain ones that need you to be speaking to them, and we'll appreciate you. I know God put that on your heart, and like you
Appreciate
said,
it.
when you turn into a purpose, it's different. And
Yes.
so, Mr. Williams,
Yes, how you doing?
L.A. I want to kind of get your story, your background. You've been in this with Dad. I guess y'all been kind of like partners in this, and again, you as well giving back to the community by mentoring to kids, and an opportunity doesn't come along like this for people that find themselves like you behind bars, but this program Beyond means you get to come out and you get to do a few
Right.
things for our community. And so tell us your story.
Well, first and foremost, again, thank y'all for having me. In this particular situation that I put myself in. My background is, me and Dez's background is similarly situated in a lot of ways. It may be some differences, but there are a lot of similarities. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and the streets of Los Angeles, California, as a lot of us know, are plagued with gang activity. I came up in I had the typical childhood coming up, had everything I wanted at first. Unbeknownst to me, had a mother who was battling a drug addiction. She was a functioning addict in my early stages of my childhood, but I was too young to realize it at the time because the things that I wanted, I had at my disposal, so it didn't show. My older brother, he knew, but I was oblivious to it at that particular time. But over time, my mother's drug addiction became bigger, and it got to a point to where it became overwhelming, to where she couldn't even hold a job no more, and we found ourselves, evicted. But before that, food was hard to come by. Things that was always I had at my disposal, it was starting to become hard to come by. So I started to, steal out of stores, doing stuff that I had no business doing at that age, but hunger kicked in, and when desperate times, you started reach for desperate measures, and what started to set in my young mind was embarrassment, because I realized that my mother was now a certified junkie, and along with that embarrassment came the will and to want to rebel. And I said, well, I committed myself to rebellion because I was angry. Because, I had to realize I had to live with the fact that my mother was a drug addict. I had a father who was, I would see very, few and far in between. Come to find out he was a married man when him and my mother made me. So him stepping out on his wife, I was a kid that he didn't want because that put strain on his marriage once his wife found out that he got another woman pregnant. So obviously, he didn't want my mother to have me. He didn't want his wife to know that he had a kid outside of his wedlock. But so I had to deal with all those things. And again, I'm not using that as an excuse because the decision still was ultimately mine to make. And I just chose to rebel. Like I said, my grandmother came in and she tried to pick up the pieces, you know, in place of my mother's drug addiction because she didn't want me to be taken in by foster care. She refused for any of that to happen. But at this time, my mind was made up to rebel, and she did what she could. And I allowed myself to become involved in gang activity. You know, I was heavy. It was on every street corner, so I was easily influenced. I allowed myself to be indoctrinated into this thought process of being a full-fledged gang member because I felt like that was something that bought respect and was a rite of passage to manhood. But it was incorrect. The thought process that I was in, I was taught incorrectly. I was educated by ignorance to the highest extent. And like I said, I allowed myself to become wrapped up into that. And with the gang mentality, you know, we're taught to settle our differences over the barrels of guns. And we're taught to respond to what we classify as disrespect with violence. And you know, and I took on to that. I dedicated myself to that incorrect thought process. And what came with that was a rap sheet. I found myself in and out the juvenile system. Found myself constantly getting arrested. I was a career criminal before the age of 18. You know, all I learned how to do was become a more sophisticated criminal. I wasn't learning anything. I didn't want to learn anything that people was trying to breed positivity into my life. I didn't want to accept it. I kept knocking it down. I wanted to follow the path of the streets. And it ran me into a brick wall every time. I was walking in darkness every step of the way. Fast forward, to make a long story short, you know, I did come up in a dysfunctional family. You know, for the most part, I had uncles who sold drugs. I had a few family members who was drug addicts as well. I had some successful family members who lived the American dream, but I was more so in the presence of the dysfunctional side of my family. So I allowed the way they lived to influence me as well. So I had negative influences from different sides of the fence. And with that being said, I'm gonna make a long story short. As you know, I'm from Los Angeles, California, but now I'm down here in Louisiana. I came to Louisiana with the mindset, with the intentions of selling drugs. And a lot of guys from California, we have a tendency to go in these other states and think that we can do what we want to do because nobody knows us and we think we can go sell drugs and make this different kind of profit that we wouldn't make in the city of Los Angeles. But in the process of that, I ran into a situation I found myself in a shootout with two individuals on one particular night. And one guy had a weapon, one guy didn't. But his weapon that he had was his mouth. He instigated this particular play. But still in all, even in that particular moment, I was wrong. And a shootout ensued. Nobody was hurt, but I walked away with a bruised ego. And my pride was bruised because I felt like I was bad enough to where these individuals shouldn't have tried me along these lines. So I made a vow to myself that night. Again, I was educated by ignorance. I was taught to respond to what I felt like was disrespect with violence. So I made a vow to myself that the next time I run across these individuals, that it would be deadly on sight. And unfortunately, like a month and a half later, I ran into the guy who was the instigator. He wasn't the trigger man. Because in that shootout, I shot back. I had a weapon. I shouldn't even had a weapon that night, but I was known to carry weapons. So I always kept a weapon on me. Because in the gang life, you needed a weapon for protection from rival gangs and things of that magnitude. So I was accustomed to having a weapon on me. And so that month and a half later, I ran across the individual who I felt was the instigator. And upon seeing him, I sprung into action with a plan. And that plan was to take this young man's life because I made a vow to myself. And I was caught up into this as like a lot of youth today, we're worried about what other people think. That's what a lot of these situations transpire off, what the audience think, what we feel like what people think about us. And I was trying to protect a street reputation that was meaningless. At that time, I didn't see it that way. I was walking in darkness. So when I saw this young man, I sprung into action. I made a vow that I'm gonna take his life. I made the worst decision I could have made to take this young man's life in that moment. And like I said, I put on the disguise, wrapped the bandana around my face, a hooded jacket over my head, and I waited. It was at a nightclub. And I waited till he exited the nightclub, and I walked up to this young man and I shot him multiple times, ending his life. In the process of that, I shot his brother as well. And, fortunately, he lived. And but other people was hurt due to my reckless actions. And, with that being said, there's a lot of media coverage on this young guy that committed this crime in the mall, allegedly. And I can't judge him because I was charged with, I was ultimately arrested, became a suspect instantly. I was ultimately arrested, and I was charged with first-degree murder with 4 counts of attempt first-degree murder. He has the same charges, but with 1 more count of attempted first-degree murder. And at that time, I denied all involvement. I felt like wasn't no evidence against me. I felt like the witnesses couldn't make a positive ID. Right. But what I failed to realize, it was me up against the great state of Louisiana. And I think we all know who was going to win that battle with the resources that the great state of Louisiana has. Right. And so by me denying any involvement, they end up getting an indictment on me for 1 count of second-degree murder. I was eventually prosecuted, took the trial. I lost. I was found guilty of second-degree murder, and I was ultimately sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence. So I'm sentenced to die in prison because of my actions. And with that, when you get to prison, ultimately I was sent to prison. I spent the last 25 years I've been locked up approximately 28 years. And the 25 of those 28 years I spent in Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola. But when you first get to prison, a lot of us prisoners, we have an enemy list. We're mad with everyone. And I came to prison mad with the judge. The judge was on my enemy list. The prosecutor was on my enemy list. The police was on my enemy list. The guy that I killed, he was still on my enemy list. How ironic was that I was still mad with the individual that I killed. I was mad with the witnesses. I was mad with family members. I was mad with everyone. But over time, and it wasn't, I didn't come straight to penitentiary changing. It took some years for me it took my grandmother actually dying for me to wake up and get what it was that she was trying to tell me all along. And so I started to realize that the judge was just doing her job. She was bound by law to give me life. I said the prosecutor was doing his job. If I don't pick up the gun and take this young man's life, the case never come across his desk. I said, if I don't create the crime scene, the police is never called. So I started to go down the list and I was marking enemies off. But as over time, it was an enemy that got on this list that I couldn't remove. Who you think that enemy was that I couldn't remove off this list? I'm asking you, Sheriff Ard, who you think that enemy was that I couldn't remove off my enemy list?
I don't know who it would be.
It was me. I was my own worst enemy because I created this whole situation and I was mad with everybody but myself.
And this is a guy that you should have been on your enemy list.
It's the only one. I'm supposed to be the only one on the enemy list.
Yeah.
Because I created this particular scene. I created everything. I made a bad decision, and that's why it's called, I'm glad I'm a part of this initiative, Beyond Bars, Choices, and Consequences. Right. Because I made a choice, and I'm suffering the consequence, spending the rest of my life in prison. I don't do this for a time cut. I have life. I'm sentenced to die in prison. I don't get no benefits for this. I'm passionate about trying to steer the youth in the right direction and not make the same decision that I made and throw their life away. You know, mine is thrown away, but I'm trying to make sure that theirs not thrown away like mine.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm so passionate about this. And this is what led me to prison. You know, I made a lifetime. Me and Des, we posted children for bad choices. You know, we posted children for that. But, you know, we dedicated to giving back. And because I left a son out there he was the age of 5. He's 33 going to die. I have another son who I don't even know because of this bad choice I made. I've been making bad choices all my young life, even my young adult life. Came to prison at 21. Was 2 months from turning 22. I'll be 50 in September. And, you know, and this is just the stuff that I was caught for. There's other crimes I wasn't even caught for. So, you know, and I don't know how much of this you may believe, but I'm actually glad that I was caught. I came to that conclusion probably about 3 years ago, because I was talking to tours in Angola of youth. You know, we didn't get a chance to come outside of Angola and do this. We had to wait till tours came to us and speak to kids. It was a body of us that did it under a woman by the name of Amber Vittorio in Louisiana State Prison. But I was given this opportunity to do this, to speak to youth. And I never forget, a girl asked me, she said, were y'all glad that y'all were caught? And I had just came to that conclusion like not too long before that. I'm like, man, you know what? I'm glad I was caught, because I wasn't going to do nothing but keep pushing destruction within my community. I was a menace to society.
Right.
And I came to that realization.
And you also don't know where you would have wound up either.
Right. I would have ended up dead, because I was living by the gun and I was going to die by it eventually.
Right.
You know, I was going to die by that, just the way that it was. And when she asked me that, a lot of them, no, I wasn't glad I was caught. No. I was the only one that said, yeah, I'm glad. I said, I'm glad you asked that, because I came to that conclusion not too long ago. I'm glad that I was caught, because it allowed me to change. It allowed me to start seeing life differently. And I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not been caught, because I would have been in a worse situation. I probably would have been in a pine box. So,
well, to let you know, I do believe you.
Right.
You know, you don't have anything to almost look forward to other than trying to give back.
That's it.
I mean, you're not getting anything special for it. I mean, neither one of you guys, and you know, it's you find yourself in a situation, and we all wind up in situations. We do. They're all different, but they're still situations. Right. And I think in life, you have to find out who that number one enemy is, and most of the time it is yourself.
Yes.
You know, most of the choices I've made over my lifetime, which were bad choices, wasn't made by anybody but myself. I may have had some influence, right? I may have had some buddies with me that may have influenced a little bit of it, but I still accepted the choice that I made to go along with it. Right. And that's in today's world, we have to realize that we are our own person, and we can make good decisions, and we don't have to let our parents steer us the wrong way. You know, hey, you know what? You got a bad hand. Right. You know, everybody can get a bad hand. Some people can be very successful with a bad hand. Some people cannot. You're going to make your choices how you make your choices, and that's just the way it is. And unfortunately for you guys, you went down a road that, you know, it wasn't no stopping you. This is the only way you probably would have gotten stopped is one of where you're at.
It's true. Exactly.
And you know, and for you guys to recognize that's huge. It really is, to be able to recognize that, hey, I am the reason I am here.
Yeah. Exactly.
But, you know, I'm not going to just sit here and cry myself asleep every night and wishing
sorrows.
Right. I mean, you don't do that. You take giving back and
take full accountability.
And to know, look, and you guys, you know, y'all do go through an extensive background through the Department of Corrections to make sure they allow you guys to do what you do and your good behavior and things of that nature. But to catch the eyes of these guys at Crime Stoppers, to know that, hey, we can put these two gentlemen in front of our children. Right. And also, I know that, are you the only two guys that are doing this right now?
Yes.
From this perspective of coming outside of a prison, yes, I think so.
Yes. But I see the future of you guys inspiring others to step up, to want to make a difference as well.
Right.
And but I also challenge you guys to, because you guys kind of started this, and it starts somewheres, right? make sure you keep the integrity of this.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Most definitely.
And watch who tries to step up and get in front of those youth to inspire them and be an influence on them, because those things could. You guys worked hard to get here, is what I'm saying. And but
yes, sir.
I appreciate each of your stories. They're very heartwarming, inspiring, scary a little bit, but it's real. It's real life. It's real situations. It's things that you have made decisions on to get yourself where you're at, and to be able to, again, give back to the youth in our community. And if you just change one, and I know y'all say that, we can just change one. Yeah. And you've accomplishing something. To be able to reach out, because we need it today more than ever. Johnny and Donna, we all had Donna, we had that conversation earlier. The crime and the criminals that we're seeing are younger and younger. And I call it the tunnel vision they get when some of these shootings. They don't have no care outside of what's going on around them. You kind of described that a little bit. You were on a mission to get that person. Right. Didn't think you wasn't out there to get his brother. You were there to get that person. Right. And you know what? Well, his brother was there too. Right. And but it's almost like that's how their minds are thinking, and we need to redirect them. We need to get their attention, and we also all know that if they don't want help, it's hard to get them help. However, I think that sometimes individuals, I don't think this, I know this, there's individuals you can talk to. There's individuals I can talk to every day and I can get their attention. Right. Mm-hmm. But there's some I can't. But then again, there's going to be the same with you guys. There's people that you can get their attention when you don't think that nobody else can. You may be that one person that opens their eyes, opens their ears and their mind and say, you know what? This guy's being real right now. I don't want this. Mm-hmm. And so again, both of you guys are very inspiring stories of where you've been, where you're at, and I commend both of you. Obviously, you both have Christ in your heart to be able to do what you do each and every day. And that's a whole nother episode if we get there. But hey, we got to have him to find our inner strength to understand. And I'm sure he's the one that showed, hey, your worst enemy, man. Yes. These doors right here. That's right. Yes, so look, before we end this, any last thoughts, Des? A few minutes. Okay. Want to leave anybody with anything?
First off, I want to thank Don. I don't think he get thanked enough, but it came from one conversation, and I mean, a conversation turned into action, and it's a lot of people out here that's talking, but not doing the action. That's right. And I could commend him for actually being about these kids' well-being. And kids need to understand, I know they hear Crime Stoppers and cringe, but it's all about crime prevention. It's about crime prevention. It's about being proactive and preventing them from even putting themselves in this situation. So, I'm honored to be here. Like, I can't say that enough. I'm honored to be in this position. I thank God for allowing me to be here to share my story. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
I want to thank the Crime Stoppers staff as a staff. Johnny, Don.
Forgot about Mr. Johnny.
Everyone it's a collective effort. I want to thank state police barracks, Captain Washington. Major Jackson, they allowed me an opportunity to be able to come to the police barracks with a life sentence. They had faith in me to come here and do the right thing. And they was, in the interview, the thought came up of linking me up with Des and Don, because that was one of my regrets of leaving Angola, was I didn't think I would be allowed this type of platform to still continue to speak to the youth. And God God was working all along on my behalf, saying, man, I'm going to put you in a better position to do this because I know your heart. I know you passionate about it. Right. So now I'm going to link you up with these people here because just where you thought you was going, you thought it didn't exist. Hey, man, they got a wave already going, and I'm going to fit you right in. So, man, I got to thank God. And, to the at-risk youth, even the ones that's not at risk, because it's been schools we talked to that they would tell us, hey, these are good kids. They don't get into nothing, and when I was in Angola, and I would ask the question, say, how many of y'all here committed crimes? I don't want to know when or where. Just have you committed crimes? And a lot of them raised their hand, and now the people was looking like, whoa.
Right.
We thought these was just good kids that never got into nothing, but they didn't committed crimes, you know. And to at-risk youth and the ones that probably considered not to be at risk, just take it from us, you know, and look at us as living proof, as an example of what not to do.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in these particular situations because a lot of times, a lot of these crimes and things is happening predicated on what other people think. Even when it come to violence, you know, somebody laughed at a joke that somebody told on you, you lost a fight, or, you know, you can't handle losing a girlfriend, however, but it's predicated on how people gonna perceive you, that a lot of these situations are, you know, arise off perception, public perception. You know, when it, like, if two individuals was having a disagreement, if no audience was around, they could say, oh, man, you know, I was wrong. But if it's an audience around, now one got to feel like he got to be super macho. That's right. Because people are watching. So that's what a lot of these, don't let public perception allow you to ruin your life, because they talked about Jesus Christ. So they're going to talk about you regardless. Whether you walk away, that's a man to be able to walk away from a situation. But if you react,
good way to put it, in
a negative way, they're going to call you stupid.
Right.
So either way, you can't please them. Do the right thing and walk away. Right. Yep. This is about crime prevention. We trying to prevent you from even committing any crime. You don't want to spend a day in jail.
So I want to end with this. There's a lot of people listening, and even if you know somebody, there's some people, I guess is where I'm going. I know there's some people like yourselves that have gotten out, and I bet they had a plan. And they're probably doing pretty good, and they have a story, you know. Definitely. And I don't know, I'm not going to even ask Don and Johnny for permission to do this, but what you guys are doing is really big, and it can be impactful to so many children. But there's also some people out there in the real world that can be doing their part too. So I challenge you, if you have a story, if you think you can help our youth and speak to them, you know, maybe get in touch with Crime Stoppers, or look, do it on your own. You know, you guys, I mean, y'all are doing it, and we need to have people continue to do these type of programs to step up. If you want to support it, I don't know if there's any need for support, but just like any program we have, we want to support. So if you want to support, you know, the Beyond the Bars, I mean, get in touch with Crime Stoppers, ask them what you can do. Want you guys to speak somewhere at one of the schools, or you know, we have all the smoke. We want it all. And just reach out to Crime Stoppers and let these guys get in front of these kids that are having trouble, and maybe they can connect, because sometimes that's what we need is that connection. Right. And so again, we keep doing what we're doing. God will pay. You know, He's going to clear the way for us. He clear the path, and He'll give us those opportunities. And I appreciate you two guys seeing and having the vision to say, hey, this is an opportunity. And look, you're not only doing God's work, but you also you're doing these great blessings for these children. But also at the end of the day, you guys are blessing yourself as well. Right. You're getting some therapy, some counseling out of this. I know you are, because you're getting to talk about these situations. And I've been around it for 33 years. I understand, you know, when you get these opportunities. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up and tell you guys, thank you. God bless both of you guys.
Appreciate you.
Thank you
for what you do every day.
Thank you. God bless you too, Chef.
And we a great partner with Crime Stoppers. Y'all keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully we can, we'll change your life one child at a time, if that's what it takes. So, all right, well, look, let's wrap it up for Behind the Scenes with Sheriff Jason Ard. We appreciate all of you listening. Look, if you like what we're doing, let us know by following our social media page, our app. Let us know you like what you're hearing. And as always, here in Livingston Parish, we love our schools, we love our churches, and we absolutely believe in the Second Amendment.